So, at some point, you probably asked yourself the question that's in the title. Kazuma Kiryu is a character that is central to the Yakuza / Like a Dragon franchise. He's usually either the main playable character or one of the main playable characters in a game. The only mainline game where he's not playable is Yakuza Like a Dragon, but excluding that game and including Gaiden, he's playable in 9 of them. 10 if you want to count Dead Souls. 12 if you want to count Kenzan and Ishin. It took years, but now he's gone beyond just being important to his franchise and is among the most iconic video game characters. Yakuza on the PS2 is technically the first game we see him in. He's 37 at that point, and while we do learn some bits about his childhood, we don't learn who his parents are. In fact, none of the later games go into that either, not even Yakuza 0 where he's younger at the age of 20. We get to see a snippet of his days at the Sunflower Orphanage, which is something. In said scene, Shintaro Kaza and Akira Nishikiyama are also present. This is the scene where Kiryu desperately pleads with Kazuma to let him work under him. He shows an intense desire to become a Yakuza to the point where it stuns even Nishiki. Naturally, we know that he persuaded Kazuma successfully because he does end up becoming a Yakuza. And it might come off as childish, but I mean, Kiryu literally was a child here. His idea of what a Yakuza was heavily affected by who Shintaro Kazuma himself was. Throughout the games, we see a lot of Kiryu being grateful to Kazuma for being a kind soul to him, and being different from the typical Yakuza in that he's a powerful man in more ways than one. He was skilled as a fighter, he was a top-ranking Yakuza, he had wealth and fame, he had men at his beck and call, and on top of that, he was well-connected. Kiryu, at his young age, probably thought that was the coolest shit ever, and wanted to become the same way. Kiryu's always been an orphan for as long as we've known him. He was put into the orphanage after both his parents were killed. That much we know for sure. We don't see Kiryu's biological parents at all in any game, though to him, Shintaro Kazuma was as close as it gets. He'd always considered him his real father ever since his childhood at the orphanage. As a child, Kiryu probably didn't have many role models to look up to, so it's easy to imagine that seeing someone like Kazuma may have just lit a fire in Kiryu, being inspired by this intimidating yet kind mobster. Sunflower Orphanage was looked after from a distance by Shintaro Kazuma, who basically took care of the financial matters, which likely only contributed to him being liked by everyone there even more. And I know what some of you may be thinking, oh my god, Devil Leon 7, Kazuma was the worst. Kind? Try neglectful. He didn't give a crap about Nishiki. And I know, that's a whole topic for another time, but for now we're just trying to describe how Kiryu himself saw Kazuma. So bear with me. Of course, thanks to the end of Yakuza 1, we know that this man was the one who killed both Kiryu's parents, which is incredibly ironic. Not only that, but he sends orphaned kids of his targets to the orphanage as well. So now the question is, what possibly led a man like Kazuma to orphan Kiryu? We know that orders are absolute in the Yakuza, but were his parents part of the Yakuza? Were they at the wrong place at the wrong time as civilians? Did they maybe get roped into a Tojo clan scheme? The theories can be endless with this question, but lucky for us, and funnily enough, one of the best sources we have that tells us more isn't any of the games. Rather, it's a live-action movie. So this is something that some of you may not take so seriously, but I think that it's still worth talking about because it gives us information that we otherwise don't really have. So it may as well be canon. The movie in question is called Ryuga Gotoku Josho, or Like a Dragon Prologue. The full movie is actually available on YouTube if you want to go watch it yourself. I'm gonna leave the link in the description. I'll be talking quite a bit about that movie, so if you'd rather not spoil yourself, then save this video for later. I don't really know whether or not showing direct clips from the movie will get this video in trouble, so I'm probably gonna show a lot of other generic footage, but I'll sprinkle a few screenshots from the movie here and there. Now, to summarize what that movie is about, it's basically a prequel to Yakuza 1 that goes even further back in the timeline than Yakuza 0 does, and it goes until basically the beginning of Yakuza 1, acting as a teaser of sorts for the game. They even show a trailer at the very end of the movie. We get to see, for technically the first time, Kiryu and Nishiki spending their days at Sunflower Orphanage, along with Yumi and Nishiki's sister, Yuko. Praise this movie for actually showing Yuko for once. The upcoming Like a Dragon show can still try and dethrone this movie for being the only piece of media that shows her, But we'll see about that when we get to it. We only have a month until that show. Anyway, getting to the bits of the movie that are relevant to this video. Kazuma took care of the orphanage as mentioned, and that also includes paying for Yuko's medical fees when she got sick, which unfortunately, according to the movie, Yuko's illness happened when she was only a child. Kazuma's care makes Nishiki extremely grateful. Kiryu and Nishiki at some point talk about their parents. Kiryu reveals that his dad was a Yakuza, so it's not that big of a surprise that he was killed. There's no mention at all of his mother, but given the nature of that world, we can basically fill in the blanks of what happened there. Think something similar to Arakawa in Yakuza 7. But for all we know, she could have been more like Yayoi, who was actually involved with her husband. We don't know. Kiryu talks about how he thought his dad probably had it coming with his line of work anyway, which shows us that prior to meeting Kazuma, he had a very negative idea of the average Yakuza. He says that when he was younger, he vowed to never resort to becoming a Yakuza, but now that he's seeing kindness from one such man, it's changing his mind. So, going back again to what Kazuma said in Yakuza 1, he mentioned that he sends kids whose parents he killed to Sunflower Orphanage. So that does also imply that he killed both Nishiki's parents and Yumi's parents as well. Now, interestingly enough, we know the least about Nishiki's parents even with this movie's context. Yumi's parents are shown at the beginning of the movie where they happen to just be bystanders in the middle of a Yakuza clash. Unfortunately, gunshots were popping off and they hit both her parents just like that. They were just regular civilians. As for Nishiki, all we get to know is that his parents filled their house with gas to take their own lives. The Yakuza were after them, but we don't know why. Maybe one or both of Nishiki's parents were Yakuza as well, but we can't really say that for sure. They could have just been targets, and the reasons for that are basically infinite. Maybe they just involved themselves in something that was more risk than it was worth. Either way, it caused the Yakuza to hunt them down. Even with this movie, all we get is basically just a few lines of lore about the parents of Kiryu, Nishiki, and Yumi. Maybe not so much with Yumi, since we actually do see the moment where her parents were taken away from her, but still. I think this topic is yet another thing, much like the previous video, where I think RGG Studio really doesn't need to delve into that much, because a bit of intrigue and mystery is always healthy for a story. We could be sitting here all day trying to think about what kind of parents Kiryu had. Were they good to him? Were they abusive? Same thing for Nishiki's parents. If you haven't seen the movie, I highly recommend you go and watch it. It's much shorter than the average movie anyway. It's only about 40 minutes. It's not the most high budget thing out there, but it's still nice if you like the franchise and want to see more of it. I hope you all enjoyed this lightweight video. I'm really looking forward to making even more lore related videos, whether they're small or big, but I'm probably gonna try and do more smaller videos for the time being so I don't take a whole month or more to upload a single video. I do want to make another big video again, but probably just at a later time. Thank you all so much for watching, it really does mean the world. I hope this is not too much to ask, but liking the video goes a long way, and I appreciate any and all likes. As usual, a big thanks to all the Hannya and Dragon members for always doing a little extra for the channel. You guys help me out so much, and I can't say thank you enough, so thank you again and again and again. That's all for this video, and I'll see you all next time. Bye bye now.